Hi guys, welcome to our podcasting. Today we will discuss about ethics, law and sustainability. But before that, we would like to introduce ourselves. Me, Halida Ulfa, and
I'm Aziz Hadiansyah.
I'm Farid Al-Shukri.
I'm Martin Derny.
And I'm Wida Kintan.
So, first we will discuss about how do moral foundations, core value inform you about your own ethical decision making, especially in the business context. Okay, maybe we can start from Kaipul.
Yeah, okay. Actually, we already use your moral authority to calculate our result, right?
Yeah.
And for this, actually, for me, I got the highest result in conformity and benevolence. And for the lowest is in hedonism. For conformity, actually, because I used to move to many cities since I was in junior high school, so I live in different cities from my hometown in my senior high school and also in my college. I have found so much different culture since that after junior high school, and because of that, I used to adapt to the norm that happen in the current place that I live. So I used to use the norm where I'm in the time. Just like in the definition is restraint action, inclination, and impulse like to upset or harm other valid social expectation or norm. Yeah. So I used to change my norm according to where I live.
Okay.
And for the second is benevolence. In benevolence means it's preservation and enhancement of the welfare of people with whom one is in frequent personal contact. Which means I'm very kind to the people who very close to me, like that. Just like my little brother here, he's from Padang, also from the same hometown like me. I used to bring so many people from my hometown to Bandung like that because I got really close relationship. And for my most lowest result is in hedonism. Maybe it's because I run my own business and also I came from a middle low economic family. I used to use my money wisely.
Okay. So for me, I think that I have some different results from Haliful because hedonism is one of my highest score. And the other highest score is universalism, and the minus one is security. So first for the hedonism, I see that yes, I have a different point of view from Haliful because for me hedonism at work is more related about the fact that I want to be good in good work condition when I am working, and I want to appreciate the work that I am doing because I will work for that all year long. So I want to be in good condition, and I want to enjoy what I am doing. It's important for me, but I want also to enjoy the relationship with my colleagues and but also suppliers, because I think that it will help business, but it will also help me to be good at work. So for my second highest result is universalism. I think it's the case because I'm open-minded and I want to work with people with different origins, different cultures, because it's important for me first to accept all the people about how they are doing, but also it's a strong way of learning from other people. So just here it's not only related with business, but I'm in exchange in Indonesia, and I'm learning from all of you guys because you have a different culture, you have different point of view, and I can try to understand how you are thinking and the way that you are moving around in your life or in your business, and so it can inspire myself and in response, I can also try to give you my point of view, and it's quite a two-way relationship, and I think it's quite interesting. But also for me, universalism is related to the equality at work, such as equality between men and women, of salaries, of conditions. Because for me, when we all are following the same goal and we all are working in the same company, people have to be a little bit equal, and it can build a strong relationship between people. Because if there is too many differences between people, it's not really easy to work with the others. And now and just another point for universalism, because I think that I can relate to what Harley was saying. I have quite the same experience, because I moved from many cities in France during my life, and I was also forced to adapt myself in each city with different culture and different way of living. And I think it's related to the universalism, because you have to be then open-minded and to try to understand the way of life of people in the city, and you have to respect that, and you have to adapt you. So I think it's quite related in this point. And to finish with, for my part, my list score is security. I think it's not because I'm crazy and I don't want to care about security. It's just because I'm not particularly worried about safety at work, because it's important for me to be able to bounce back and to go further, even if some things are going wrong. You always have to bounce back and to not to collapse, but to try to get better with the time. And and I think it's all for me.
Yeah, it's quite interesting result from you two guys, because I maybe having the similar result in the lowest hedonism, and I agree with what people said about his previous, because I related to it very much, and also comparing to your answers, your perspective about hedonism is about more appreciating about what you've been done and what other colleagues been done, right? So yeah, I think hedonism in this value is not about we spending many things that doesn't necessary for us, but it's more about complimenting about what we've done before. And right, as in Indonesian right now, I think this mental issue are become trend issue about how we take care about our mental health and so on. So maybe like it's kind of different culture and financially stable between our country, right, Indonesia and France, and it's also become the basic reason by why we both have different result in hedonism. I think it's quite interesting issue that I need to highlight. And I don't know, maybe I have the different in highest, because I have a self-directions value of my highest result in Schwartz value. I think because I have a tendency to more having strong commitment to what I've done, and I have some self-driven motivation to everything I've done and everything I've working in my previous or anything in my work, and so that's become my motor to do and work in my professional career and also business decision making. And I think that's kind of important parts for us in a business context to have a self-direction, right? Because when we are work as a worker, we may have direction from our supervisor or our higher hierarchy from our work. But when we become the businessman like Ipul or Kintan, we need to have some self-commitment and motivation, right? So it should be important. I'm glad that I have highest value in self-directions. I think maybe you can relate it.
my highest score is the same with the Hariful because conformity is would like to follow the rules so I can't get conflict with with another people, so we are keep calm, keep situation calm. And then related to my business, I am hiring people based on proper qualification because in my business should lifting heavy objects, and then should have proper financial administration. So I think I'm hiring based on the right qualification. So and then that is sustainable with my business. I think that's enough for me. Just example. Okay, Halida.
Okay, maybe I'm a little bit different with you guys about the results because based on my research of Schwartz value scale, the highest value of mine is traditions and the lowest one is stimulations. As we know that tradition, which means that respect, commitment, and acceptance of the custom and ideas that tradition, culture, or religion provides. So, according to in the context of my own ethical decision making, this is to be my baseline, especially in business. Because right now I'm starting building a startup, so the commitment one with other members to making this startup is growing is must to be my one priority. Besides that, we are as a member of the startup should inform our progress in every activity that we have to do based on our own job desk. And as you know that based on the research by Small Business 2019, lack of commitment is one of common reason why startup fail. Startup just like any endeavor need commitment and patience to first overcome the obstacle before growing and flourishing. I think that's all my answers. Okay.
We need.
Yeah.
I think we need to conclude what we've been talking in the first issue, right? In my previous talking about hedonism comparing each other result, me, Ipul, and Martin, hedonism is kinda embrace it with the positive way, right? Not in a negative way, but after hearing about Kintan and Halida, I think achievement and stimulation, right? Your highest?
Traditions.
Oh, tradition.
I am conformity, same with
Oh, yeah. What I understand is Halida is an interesting fact about lack of commitment in startups failure these days, and so that kind of related to me as my highest point is self-directions. I don't know if it's really related to the having commitment, because I see that having commitment in our work is kind of like having trust to each other. Work, right? So I've trust to Kintan, for example, for what her doing, and he's kind of have commitment to me as well. And in self-direction, I believe that kind of different because self-direction is more likely to have a moral self-respect to our personal individual work, and also have the power to get back when we get lazy or get drowned in our comfort zone, and that's kind of more likely have a relation to its other value. So yeah, I think it's quite interesting issue for us to discuss, right?
Okay, so now we are going to the second topic, which is the strategies that we are thinking about to avoid moral neglect, moral justification, and moral inaction in organizational and business. So first, I will talk about the differences between the three type of moral neglect, justification, and inaction. To begin with, I think that moral neglect is can happen in two ways. The first one is why roles and goals are not well defined. So the employee is quite on a blur, and he just don't know if he can say anything to, for example, to other services If a service is doing some unethical behavior, he just don't know if he can say anything about it because he don't know if it's his role and if it's responsibility to talk about that. And I think that the second way of the appearance of moral neglect is when roles and goals are too strict, and in this case, the employee is just following his role, and he don't care about what's happening in the other services. And so if another service is doing unethical behavior, he will just avoid of thinking about it, and he will just stay in his role and try to achieve his goals, but he's not about denouncing it or go against it or try to solve the solution. He will just stay in what he has to do. So for me, what is really important in a company to put in place to go against that moral neglect is the collaboration between services, with, for example, meetings every week between all the services with some employees, with the directors, but also with the employees. So all the people can be aware of what is happening in all the company, and all the people can give their opinion on each topic, it will avoid the strict aspect of goals and roles. Then I will go with the moral justification. So for me, moral justification is that you are following the others, you are following the group, and for example, in a service, you just don't want to say your opinion because the others are seeking with another way of view, and you are quite fear of go against them because you think that is good if people are saying that. And for me, one of the strategy to avoid that is first always think by yourself and not with the pressure. And also, I think it's important that the company is providing a culture of no judgment with just as the first one with some meetings. And I think it can be in the culture of the company to try to avoid that. And to finish with the moral inaction. For me, when it's happening when you have a too powerful hierarchy with too many directors, and the employees only following what the orders of the superiors, and they don't care about what's happening in the outside of it. I have something to relate of that. You know, when there are some World War I, and World War II. At the end of the war, soldiers are just saying that they only following the rules, even if they are murdering people or not. They say it's just the rules, so it's not my responsibility. Yeah. And I think this situation is also happening in the company when employees don't think by themselves and just following the rule of the superior. So I think that to avoid that, first, you have to have a good communication between employees and directors, and the communication has to be in a two-way sense. So the director is doing some orders, but the employee can respond of it, because if it's only one way, you will just follow the orders. And I think that the company has to engage employees to their enterprises decisions. For example, by making individual interview, so employees can share their thinking to their superior, and with the proximity with the one-on-one interview, so it will be much more easier for the employees to try to provide some strategy for the company. That's what I think about the three main topic of moral.
I think I most likely have similar experience about the three kind of things about moral neglect, justification, and inactions. And for the context, I would tell that I used to work in my previous career as a manager, and as a manager I have superior, right? My let's call it CPO, Chief Product Officer. I have to respond and do what she said at the time. And at the time, as I became the manager, I have like higher target and higher expectation from every stakeholders in the company and also outside the company. And at the time, I don't see that I applying these moral actions to avoid in the kind of situations, and so that makes me more like having stress in work, and so I don't really comfortable with my colleagues and others because everyone has high expectation to me, and I don't see, and that's resulting in my work is not done in a good way, I think. And so after learning of what you said, because of what having a good communications, in my case at that time it was very good for me if I have be clear to have every expectation. I have expectation to my work and they have expectation to mine, and also and etc. I think having communication in my case is the become clear in our expectation, right? So by complying and also telling our each expectation to each other, it become more likely to have an empathy between each other for us in my previous time, right? So it's quite a good strategy for you, to remind me in my previous experience. Also, I think I want to add the strategy to avoiding that time of moral inactions or something like that. I think it's important to dividing the personal life and professional life, right? So I think it's kind of different. Even if we working with our friends or our close relatives or something, it is important to dividing the personal life when we have to talk about everything in our life, individual, and also what we need to be done in our professional life. And that's kind of good strategy for me for avoiding it to in the next hour work and something like that. And so it's good for others too, right? Because we have boundaries between them to not having cross each other boundaries, right? So when we can say that, okay, I think I have some issue in my previous individual personal life, but I think I'm gonna talk it outside the office hours maybe. So that kind of actions may, I think, can avoiding us to any moral inaction and stuff like that. So I think
I have some example for neglect, justification, and inaction. Usually I running business on clothing, right? And most of my suppliers just putting the dye to the river like that. Because I think it's one of the example of moral neglect, because she know that the water from the river will used by the people around them, right? Yeah. Like for the farmer, like that. Yeah. And for also for the justification, actually I'm right now doing these things. Actually, I have started maybe since 2 years ago. And honestly, I haven't paid tax until now. Yeah, because it's kept from small business, and maybe this year I will pay the tax. Yeah, I'll pay this year, and I think it's some justification that I do because people around me didn't pay the tax because they are small and medium business like that. But it's actually false because you didn't contribute anything to your country like that. And also for the moral inaction, it's also related to the tax that I said before, because I know that people around me, there's no one paying the tax because they think the small and medium business didn't have to pay the tax. Yeah, and I'm as the one who have knowledge about this, didn't talk to them about these things. So I think the moral inaction also happened to me. Yeah.
Okay, I will because I have some business too, but to to avoid the moral neglect and then moral justification and moral action, I think I make some orientation introduction about the rules, the norms in my company, and then providing knowledge to every employee regarding the ethics, norm and regulation, so they can follow the rules. And then I will give you some example, like my employee should delivering goods according to the procedure, such as transporting goods from the warehouse must report to the checker, and then put the goods into the car must be known by the checker, and then that all activities should have invoice. So I think that all for me.
Yeah. Okay. I will explain about my strategy. Actually, it's similar a bit with Kintan because it means that actually we have to establishing strong foundations in the beginner, right?
Yeah.
So maybe Kintan in her business, but I'm in my startup. Once actually, because I'm the CEO of my startup, so actually the foundations is really important. So I can actually address first about what will my research do, and then what will the teams do to do their own tasks. So this first. Actually, so when I have been planning the place of my research, actually the every members can feel pressures to break the rules and fewer misdeed take place. So after that, when bad behavior does happen by someone do bad happen, so each member actually can tell that problem in a weekly meeting. So I think it's related to the Martin's tell before about good communications in every employee and supervisors, right? Okay. And the second one, actually to avoid this moral justifications and moral inactions, we can do like build a culture of integrity. So we have to trust each other in all members, because as we know that startup is not like a strict hierarchy, right? But it's more like x-axis. Yeah. We have to work together, not like you just follow the rules, right? Okay, and the last maybe actually the middle one, to avoid this, actually we have to reevaluate and revise the compliance program or the strong foundation we have been built before. Actually, is it appropriate right now, or maybe it's not really appropriate for this time, right? Because every situation is changed. So maybe our obligations, our procedures, it's not appropriate for this time. Okay, I think it have to be our considering about that. Okay, I think that's all about my opinion.
I think to conclude our discussion in this second issue are to avoid any moral neglect and something like that. We should have a good communication between our parties and stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
So as what Martin said, as what I've experienced before, be clear about our expectations to each other. It's kind of important things to avoid many moral issue in the next future.
Yeah.
And also dividing professional and personal life, as I mentioned before, it's kind of good experience strategies to implement, and also from what Iful explained from his experience, I think being emphasized about environmental issue are kind of similar. It's kind of important also to because we need to think about others' freedom about having good quality of environment, right? So by considering that issue, it is important for us for considering that, and also be clear about common rule. It's like what you said, like, because before I think the more issue about moral inaction are is not being clear about what the common rule are being happen in this circle, right? In this environment. So by telling them about the common role are very also good strategies to avoid that. Yeah, and also I think from your experience is more likely about having simultaneously communication, right?
Yeah.
It's not about only the good communication, but also having and make sure that we have daily or something in period of time. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
I think the main of all all of discussion is effort must be carried out by all parties.
Yeah.
But by the workers themselves and then by the company, not just by the workers. I think.
And also, I think stakeholders also have their responsibility on it's all the company ecosystem that is involved.
And I think the communication take the big portion for this to prevent all of this to not happen in the future. Right? Yes. Communication is the first thing that should be good.
Yeah.
And also, I think every of us have to think longer before we did something like that.
Yeah,
It's the main thing. I think also for all of this example.
Yeah.
All right. So in the last segment, we're gonna talk about our third issue in theories of ethics, like deontological, consequentialism, virtue ethics, and stakeholders theory. And I want to begin with my case first. I think my case was kind of like to give the context. I would say that I have a close relative to me as a policeman. He is having some many experience about accepting bribe or reward or something. In law or theoretical, it is quite similar with stakeholders theory, because in the stakeholders theory there are basic understanding about interconnection between parties to make sure that and various entities to make sure that and each other decision will impact to each other business as well. So in this case, I would like to tell that because of the position or the role of my close relative doing is the police, he tend to have many interconnection with other parties outside the police or maybe inside the police institute, and so there are more likely people to try bribe my close relative, and so he tend to not accept the reward or give any gift that may lead into the bribery or corruption or something. But then he's done his job very well until his superior kind of happy with what we have done. He have done, and so sometimes when after the job is done, my close relative are asking a reward to his superior. So at first I think it is kind of unethical, because we should done our work with no intention to getting any reward, right? But in our realistic way, in realistic life, we need to have life, right? And in this case, I don't know, the wages in become a policeman is quite low or something, and there's many ways to accept the bribe, right? So to avoid the bribe, he always to ask superior his reward after the job is done. And by law, it is quite okay, I think. And later on, I will include the written rules about that. Any public servants in Indonesia are more likely not to accept any gift to comply with to achieve any objective specific goals, but they can accept the gift or reward after the job is done. But I understand, right? And so I think that's my case in
Yeah,
my perspective.
and I think that I can also relate it to the French case, because in France it's a little bit the same. It's like you can ask some gift or some reward when you are finishing the job, and when your boss just want to reward you about that, it's quite like a bonus on the salary or something like that. But you just can't accept a gift before a job is done, and you can't accept a gift that will tend you to do something for the other people that is gifting you. Is like in this case it's a corruption case, because you just accept something for your own just before of having the job done. So I think it's quite the same in the French context.
Oh, yeah. So the gift should accept in a positive manners, right?
Yes,
Rather than
positive.
accepting bribery and become the negative manners.
Yeah, exactly. And in the law in France, it's provided to accept before and bribery, but it's okay to accept after your job. Okay, and I think that I have another example about the stakeholder theory, but in this case not related to the law, but related to the sustainability, because in my opinion, in the stakeholder theory, when a company, for example, has a guideline in sustainability, all of its stakeholders also have to follow some sustainable policies. And the stakeholders have to be involved to solve ethical issue. For example, H&M is doing advertising on eco-friendly products and taking care of the environment and on the working people. But on the other hand, they are using some unethical stakeholders that are using overconsumptions of raw materials and that are not dealing with the worker conditions. They just want to make profit, and they don't want to take care of their employees. And in this case, we can see that the strategy of H&M and their marketing device is not related to their action and to their choice of supplier and stakeholder.
Yeah, I think it's good example about stakeholder theory in sustainability manners.
Yes.
Rather than in law issue,
Yes.
right? I think Kintan, you can. Oh, maybe people, right? You have similar example about
No.
stakeholder theory, or maybe you can.
Maybe we can move to the.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we can move to deontological ethics theory because maybe I'm Kaipul and Kintan will be related about this theory. So as you know that deontological ethics theory means that the normative ethic theory that the morality of an action should be based on whether that action itself is right or wrong, but there's no consequence. Meanwhile, the consequentialism ethical theory means that there's a judge an action's moral correctness by its consequences. So the difference is about the consequence between the ethical and consequentialism. So actually, I have one of dilemma when I got funding for my startup. We should spend money in shorter time with a quite big amount of funding. But the rule suggests us we cannot to buy the equipment. Okay, but we buy the equipment because we think that equipment is really important for us to the first time to research the product, right? And that's why actually all of our startup member know it that is wrong. Okay, but buying equipment is really important for us. So in the last or when we go the evaluations and to report our progress, we just telling about why we do to buy the equipment. And when we explain it with clearly, and then we told about our consideration, and the reviewers accepted us to buy the equipment. So I can conclude on this dilemma. Actually, I think the rule or regulations that built by someone or the government or the in the context the giver of funding, actually the rule must be clearly not only not to buy the equipment, but not to buy the equipment which consideration is about what, about who, about why, about how. I think the regulation must be a little bit clearly, and then and the second one maybe related to sustainability rights. So if sustainability, maybe the regulations when the giver of funding should mentioning about maybe the startup should buy the material with the eco-friendly material maybe. So the regulation must be a little bit strict, but it's okay if this is good for our environment rights, because they give us the money. Actually, we should give us to the benefit to them, not only for them but actually for the environment's rights. Okay, I think that's about my dilemma.
Actually, I also have the example for the deontological ethics. Like I said before, I running my own small business.
Yeah.
And there's no regulations that regulate for the minimum wage for the small business. In Indonesia, you can pay how many you want to the people who work with you.
Yeah.
But in my environment, they used to pay the worker very low. Like they only paid like 60,000 rupees a day. It's very very low. Yeah, and they have to pay the rent on this, pay the food, pay the transportation with 60,000 rupees a day, and it's related to ethic, I think. Maybe they want to work with you because they haven't any choice to do anything else. And for me, I also bring people from my hometown here, and maybe I couldn't afford to pay them as much as the minimum wage of the states, so I pay them a little bit higher than what is the people around me paid for their worker, but I also provide them with the house, so they didn't have to pay for the rent, they didn't have to pay for the transportation because the transportation also included into my bills, like that. And I also equip them with the tools to cooking, so they can cook by themselves if they have less money, like that. And maybe I think it will be more work because they are also human like you, and if you pay very low, how can they live their life like that? And maybe for the development for me in the wages things, maybe in the next I can follow the law for the minimum wages of the current states, so they can live better for the next, like that.
Okay, I will discuss about deontological theory too. In my example, is about environmental pollution and waste generated from the production process, because the several company don't fulfill sustainable aspect because they have other costs that don't have profit for them. But for sustainability, for environment, they should try to manage the waste so that it is environmental friendly. And then the regulation about the environmental pollution in Indonesia, such as ISO 40,000, and then which is discussed about the business activities should environmental friendly. So the company should apply and then follow the rules. So the company can continue their business. Like pulp and paper company, they produce the paper from the trees, and then the waste is biomass ash. So the company should make the waste into granules. So the granules useful for soil remediation. So the company has not waste again. So that is related to sustainable friendly. I think that's all for me.
Oh yeah. To conclude our discussion, I think we have many insights about law and sustainability issue, right?
Yeah.
For example, our first discussion about law, how the public servant or many workers can accept the gift before or after the job, and it is important to differentiate the gift based on the needs between parties. And so for other example about sustainability is more likely to encourage people to consume environmental friendly products, right? So and for the law case is more likely to deontological theory, your case, right? It's all about confronting and giving clear about the rule and the regulation. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are two different law, right? Is this because forcing people to do something, and it is because what we say in English, right?
I think
It's to force people, to insist people to do something, and to manage people to not to do something, right? You get it all right. In the Halida case, it is more likely about the rule is more likely to manage people to not having impact about the gift or the reward as you getting, and people having experience in wages, right? Wages, right? And so Kintan also giving example about sustainability issue and relating it with ISO 40, right? Yeah. I think it's quite good discussion about sustainability and law, right? So we can thank you guys for the discussion, and it is great discussion for us having these days, and we can see each other next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.